Welcome to Purposely Peaceful. I'm your host, Jessica Rivera, a licensed marriage and family therapist and a quantum hypnosis practitioner. This podcast is where real life meets inner peace. You'll get honest conversations, practical tools, and soulful guidance to help you live with more clarity, calm, and purpose. Let's dive in. This is probably the most important subject there could possibly be. Forgiveness is so underrated because it seems more theoretical than real. But forgiveness is the final gate we pass through on this journey to inner peace. And no, that doesn't mean that this is the last episode. In fact, all the previous episodes were just introductions, and in my opinion, they were the most important areas that we need to heal through to get closer and closer to peace. Over the years, I have had many different conversations with clients at different stages in life and different stages of healing, and one of the things that everybody kind of has a different opinion about forgiveness. Forgiveness means different things to different people. What I hear the most is that people believe that forgiveness is about excusing the behavior, that they have to forgive and forget. And so I have my own definition of what forgiveness is. So I'm going to share with you what I share with them. This is my own interpretation and expression of what forgiveness is. So let me try to explain this one as simply as possible. Before we start off on the wrong foot, let me be clear. Forgiveness doesn't mean that what someone did to you is okay. Forgiveness is not about excusing them. It's about what releasing that harm does for you. That's right. Forgiveness is for your peace. You don't have to call someone up and say, I forgive you. You can if you want to, but it's not required. And sometimes forgiveness can also be kind of funny too, because we don't want to take life too seriously. Not everything is funny, of course, but some things really are. That's why I'm a firm believer that humor is essential. It helps us let go of the small stuff, make sense of the big stuff, and guide us toward forgiveness and ultimately peace. Forgiveness doesn't mean you have to cut or keep these people in your life either. It's a personal choice that needs to make sense for you, for your family, for your journey. Forgiveness isn't just about infidelity or abuse, although it's critical for healing from those. A lot of people associate forgiveness with big traumatic events, and yes, that's important, but we often overlook the little things that chip away at us, and those still impact our peace. And even more than that, we often completely skip forgiving ourselves. Yep, you heard that right. Most people spend little to no time on self-forgiveness. So why do we have to do all this forgiveness work? Well, hopefully it's because you want to be purposely peaceful. But in all seriousness, we all deserve to live lives full of love and peace and joy. But we get stuck on what someone did to us, what we did to them, or what we did to ourselves. Unprocessed emotions, unhealed relationships, anxiety, depression, that's just all emotional weight. A buildup that blocks us from our natural state of joy, fun, love, and connection. These are the things that we want to start forgiving so that we can feel lighter again, so that we can breathe again. Sure, life isn't always rainbows and sunshines, but when you feel lighter, it's a lot easier to release what's been holding you down. And forgiveness is the answer. Let's start with my truth. Forgiveness has been a practice in my life, through and through, time and time again. There have been a good amount of times where people in my life have broken my trust or hurt me in ways that I didn't see coming. My abusive ex, an ex-best friend, a toxic boss. The list is longer than I'd like, but each of them affected me deeply. I was naive, blinded, and sometimes just plain unlucky. The old me would have gladly sat around wishing karma would do its thing to expose them for who they are. But here's the truth. That never brought me peace. It just stirred up more emotions, none of them helpful. I couldn't heal hate with more hate. I couldn't resolve anger with more anger. I couldn't grow as a person by condemning others. That energy was way too low vibe for where I was trying to go. So I took it into my own hands, and I began to forgive in little ways at first. And I'll be honest, I didn't even know what I was doing at first, but over time it became clear. The only way to set myself free from anger and bitterness and resentment was to forgive. That's how I found peace. And look, some of the things that I've had to forgive, they're heavy. Childhood trauma, betrayal, it's all there. And it all happened. But I had to move forward, not for them, but for me. That doesn't mean I don't still get triggered. I do. Sometimes I have random memories that come back up, but when they do, I return to that practice. I start again. I forgive again. Later in this episode, I will share what my forgiveness practice looks like, and hopefully you'll find it helpful. Now let's talk about what we probably ignore the most: forgiving ourselves. If that sounds weird, like why would I forgive myself? Let me explain. Just like we get hung up on other people's wrongs, we also carry guilt for how we've treated others or ourselves. Have you ever hurt somebody, broken someone's heart, lied? Have you ever felt guilty about something, even if it didn't make sense? Have you ever judged anyone, talked it down to yourself, felt like a bad parent, gotten mad at your body for not cooperating with you? If you have, welcome to the club of self-forgiveness. If memories and thoughts like these pop up and you feel shame, guilt, or any kind of discomfort, it means part of you is not at peace, and that's where the healing starts. You might think, well, it wasn't a big deal, or I didn't mean it, but guilt isn't logical, it's emotional. And until you forgive yourself, that emotional weight will keep interrupting your peace. This is the part where we begin to clear the path back to ourselves, back to love. So how do you know forgiveness is needed? If you're not at peace, that's your sign. If a memory, thought, or interaction keeps popping up or you get triggered and is bringing you unpleasant emotions, it's a clue. Resentment, anger, betrayal, those feelings hang out where forgiveness hasn't yet been offered. So here's a little practice tip. One of the ways that you can start to practice forgiveness is to visualize the person or yourself as a soul, not a personality. Think deeper than that. See us as the light that we are, right? We have this life force energy flowing through us. Envision that however you like. A lot of people envision this as golden white light. So this is the pure essence of who you are, okay? Every single person has this. And so I want you to imagine that person that might have hurt you and see them as the light that they are, because that's who they were at one point before they hurt you, before the story got complicated. And you can say, I forgive you. And it'd be better if you say their name, I forgive you. Or you say to yourself, I forgive myself for thinking that. Because at the core of who we are light. We are deeper than the actions that our physical body acts out in this world. And here's how it looks in real life. I don't do this very often, but every once in a while, someone cuts me off in traffic or something happens, someone does something, and my ego snaps and I immediately say some kind of name, and I'll just say it nicer because this is a podcast, and I might be like, oh, you jerk. I immediately catch myself. So the minute it leaves my mouth, I'm like, oh, I did it. I said that. This is what I say. I forgive myself for losing my temper. I didn't mean that. I was just feeling angry. And yes, I say that out loud. My husband gets a front row seat to all the quirky ways that I deal with my emotions, and this is one of them. Sometimes it's a mean thought that I have about myself. And I tell myself, I forgive myself for being so judgmental. I forgive myself for not listening to my intuition. I forgive myself for drinking that soda. I forgive myself for being awkward. Whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, I name it, I feel it, I forgive it, and I let it go. I don't stew in the same story over and over. I just honor it, process it briefly, and move on. So this can happen in 15 seconds, this can happen in 30 seconds, and if you really want to be very intentional, you can do this in 5 minutes, but you don't need to. I think that's the beauty of this exercise, is that you're just doing it as it's happening. And the whole point of forgiveness is that I'm not dwelling on it. I don't need to carry it anymore. I have now dealt with it. And so let me now move on in freedom. I will put a timestamp in the show notes. So if you want to go back to this later, you can get that information in the show notes. Here's another thing that you can do. This is more like a visualization. And again, you can talk to yourself or you can talk to that person. And so you just kind of adjust the words however you need to. But I think a lot of times we do need to forgive other people. But I want you to remember that it is just as important or just as vital to forgive yourself for all these little things that happen. Okay, so again, you go back to envisioning that person or you envision yourself and you say, you are forgiven. I am forgiven. I am free. I am free. I am safe. I am at peace. Let that last line settle into your body. What would that feel like to let peace take over? Feel what it's like to loosen your grip, to let the story be complete, to walk forward without dragging it behind you. Breathe in peace and breathe out release. You're doing the work, you're doing the healing, and this is what freedom feels like. And then sit for a few more minutes and just meditate on the feeling of peace. Focus in on that word, on what it means, on what it could feel like, on what it feels like. And it's a really beautiful exercise. And what I love about these is that they're so short. They can take literally, like I said, 15 seconds, 30 seconds. And if you want to, you can make them a little longer. I think that a lot of forgiveness work also goes really well when you're writing. So again, here with the journaling, I know I say it a lot, but journal. Journal what you want to say. Journal what hurts you. Journal a letter to someone that you'll never give them, but it's for you. It's for you to process what it feels like to forgive and to set yourself free. I want to talk about how forgiveness can transform your life. And here's what I've seen, and not just in myself, but in clients and family and loved ones. People begin to let go of chronic resentment and finally feel peace in their bodies as something that is more normal. And so you start to have more of this peace in your body. You start to have less emotional and physical symptoms. When I'm really stressed, I get a stiff neck. And so when I have a lot of pressure, when there's a lot of things that I have to do, that is one of my signature bodily responses, is to have a stiff neck. And I'm like, oh, I'm doing too much. And so it's just different for everybody. Some people have stomach issues. Some people have headaches. Some people have tension or tightness in their jaw. So it kind of shows up differently for everybody, but those symptoms can lessen. And who doesn't want that? With forgiveness, a lot of people start to get their personal power back and they stop defining themselves by the pain that someone caused them. And I see that a lot in the work that I do is this person did this to me, so I can't heal. I can't move on. I can't be the person that I'm going to be because of this person. And I'm here to say, maybe to a point that's true because you believe it. But there's also another way to try to move forward, to move through it, to move on. And so that's what I'm trying to share here is you can do this kind of work. It can change. I've done this for myself and it's completely changed my life. I see this with my clients when they practice forgiveness. Little by little, we start to chip away at it. And so that's really what I want you to think about. Every single episode, that's really what I'm pointing out is like, if you do this just little by little, not even every single time, but just when you catch it, and if you try to catch it more, it only gets better. You strengthen the skill, and before you know it, you're going to be feeling better. And confidence returns, joy returns, relationships heal, not just with the people around you, but within yourself. You become whole again. Life becomes lighter and more loving. Forgiveness does not make you weak. It makes you wildly free. And when you're free, you can actually show up fully in your life, your purpose, and your peace. Forgiveness is the key to emotional freedom. It's not a soft skill, it's a superpower. It unhooks you from old pain, heavy emotions, and energy that just isn't yours anymore. So if you're wondering whether you should forgive someone or yourself, the answer is yes. And if you're thinking, but they don't deserve it, remember, you do. You deserve the peace. And just to keep it real, this isn't a one-time thing. Forgiveness is a lifelong practice. Life will keep unfolding, and new situations, memories, and triggers will stretch us. But every time we choose to forgive, we soften the edges and move a little closer to our truth. What I would like to do moving forward is to try now to apply all the things that I've talked about, because that's where the real work happens. So if you are someone that is doing the inner work, listen to the last 14 episodes if you haven't already, and make sure you understand where I'm jumping off from, because to me, that is the foundational information that someone needs to start to then apply it into their lives. Maybe you don't have an issue with self-worth, so you're like, I don't even want to listen to the episode. But listen to it. It's a perspective. Every episode is a perspective toward peace. But now what I want to do moving forward is to apply it. How do we now look at real life situations and apply it? How do we do it in a world that's just craziness and madness and chaos all the time? Do you have any topics, things that you're struggling with, things that you're curious about, that you want to learn about, or do you have any questions for me? Please send me a message on Instagram or send me an email, and I will happily take some time to see what it is that I can bring to the table so that I can be helpful. And in the next episode, if everything lines up, I'm going to have my husband join us. And my intention with having him on is because I think that there would be a lot of value in sharing what it looks like to live life being purposely peaceful in a relationship. And what I love for the majority of the time that we've been together is he was not pursuing the same thing. It was me leading the way, trying to learn, trying to figure things out, trying to find myself. And so I finally reached a point where, like, I think I know what I'm doing. I think I know what I want to do. I think I know how I want to show up in the world. But all of these things are getting in the way, basically interrupting my peace. And so I kind of led the charge on that one. And he's watched me over the years change and do my thing and figure out what I'm doing. And he's reached a point in his career where he's feeling the need to change. He's feeling the call to be purposely peaceful. He's feeling the call to do things that are more meaningful. And so if you're someone that has been struggling with your job or your career or what you're doing, or you don't know what you want to do, I think that you'll get a lot of value listening to what he has to say. He's doing something that's just not typical because he's doing a full 180, but it's a beautiful thing to watch even on my end. Anyway, if you want to hear more, catch the next episode. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good one. Thanks for spending a little time with me today. I hope something here met you right where you are. This podcast is for inspiration only and not a substitute for therapy. Please reach out to a licensed professional if you need support. I'll catch you on the next one.